such thing as a perfect ship. Queen Mary 2 is not perfect. Designing a ship like this is a compromise between many conflicting things, and you're never going to please everybody all the time. But on the top of the ship, above the bridge, there's a semi-enclosed lookout, which I put there because on QE2, when the weather got rough, you couldn't go out and you got really wet if you went out on some places. So I thought an enclosed, semi-enclosed area would be good. The trouble is, there's the machinery for the air conditioning for the bridge, and it blocks the view a bit, so I'd alter that. We have 2 gas turbines, but when we designed the ship, the fuel was reasonable. Now it's very expensive, so perhaps we would look at doing something with the gas turbines. But you know, there's always somebody that complains more than anybody else. And the person that complained the most was one of the captains, because he said his cabin was too small, even though he had the biggest crew cabin on the ship. Very good friend of mine, Captain Opry. And so I like to say to him, look, I've given you the best balcony in the world. Now, to run a ship like Queen Mary 2, it's only a success because of the success of the crew. And Queen Mary 2's crew are really loyal to the ship. If they get told they're going to another ship, they don't want to go, because the facilities for the crew on Queen Mary 2 are much higher than on the other ships, because I wanted to make sure they were happy on board, and that way they would look after the passengers better. So this is one of the early cruises after lockdown, and they said to me, we'd love to take a photograph with you. So there they are. But a ship's only as good as the crew. And this is the morning of delivery, when I got up to go to the shipyard to sign the ship over from the shipyard to Cunard. And that's the sight that greeted us. Tremendous. And of course, I've written a book on how to build your own Queen Mary. It's sadly out of print now, but you can find second-hand copies through Amazon. But if you read that and follow the instructions, you end up with something like that. There she is, Queen Mary 2. So I hope that's an insight into Queen Mary 2, and also gives you an idea of why Rotterdam is so important. And so there are elements on Queen Mary 2 that I took from Rotterdam. Such an important ship. And certainly I like to think they are 2 of the greatest ships in the world. So thank you all very much. You spend more money than normal if you want to build your liner. And they said to me, you don't want to do all this nonsense. They said, look, a ship like this, that's a liner. It's got a black hull, red and black funnels. And I said, no. I said, look back at one of the Italian ships, the Michelangelo, in 1966. There she is, crossing the Atlantic. And then suddenly there's a big storm and a wave crashes over the front. What does the wave do? It smashes over the front of the superstructure, and 3 people are swept out and drowned. They're actually swept out into the Atlantic. And I said, if you build a ship like the Disney ship, that is what will happen. So they said, oh, we don't want that to happen. You've got to do a design that will give us what we want. So I like to have a personal philosophy that says you have the best chance of being successful if you look back at the past. So I look back at certain ships like the Rotterdam. So I copied the way of the promenade deck with the forward end enclosed and the split uptakes, copied that, put that in Queen Mary 2. From the Normandy, I took the breakwater and various parts of QE2 so that my new ship would have a family resemblance to QE2. And my boss said to me that I would only ever get the chance of spending $1 billion once in my life, so I better get it right the first time. And this is the very first design. And what we say is that when you design a ship, it's a spiral. You do the first design, you criticise it, you make changes and prototype. Post-war transatlantic liner of that era that still exists. And certainly it's something that you who live here really need to cherish and to shout out to the world, we have this great ship here, come and visit it. Because it really is something very, very special. Now, as I said, I'm a naval architect, and all I wanted to do since I was a young boy was to design and build a great big ship. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my baby, Queen Mary 2. And the reason Queen Mary 2 came about was because of the Titanic. Because in 1985, Robert Ballard discovered the wreck of the Titanic, and that started more interest in the transatlantic crossing.